What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Badgers. We are going to go through some positional grades and rankings for the defensive side of the ball. We're going to talk about that today with Rajiv, plus a lot more on Locked On today. Let's go. Let's get it started.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Freeform Friday. We got some good topics we're going to get into, but also get a bunch of your comments if you have them. We're going to bring Rajiv in as always. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Rajiv, happy Friday, my friend.
Happy Friday. Good to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Of course, always. All right, we're going to take some comments, but we're going to get into the first segment here. And one of the reasons we want to do some of these type of segments on kind of Freeform Fridays is I think there's a lot of opinions and a lot of good thoughts that can go into positional grades, two deeps. So we're going to start on the defensive side. We did the offensive side 2 days ago. Defensive side, Rajiv, I'm going to start with you. We'll go back and forth. What is your positional grades for the defensive line? And we'll do it just like we did with Justin. So we're going to do a grade for next year, and then a grade for how do you feel about the overall holistic health of the position.
Yeah, so this is definitely going to be the defensive side of the ball in general is going to be a little bit lower on the grades than the offensive side. But for D-line right now, I mean, I hate to do it, but I'm giving it a C right now. And frankly, a C moving forward down the future. I would almost say C- on the future because I just don't know where we're going with this. I haven't seen any nose tackles. I haven't seen the big beef up front. And it's a little hard to really put a finger on the future because once we see this team play and how they're going to play and what kind of defensive lineman they're going for, that'll help dictate the future. But for now, I'm very worried about nose tackle. I've said that multiple times on the show. Defensive end, I feel like we're okay. I mean, I'm okay with Rodis Johnson and Mullins and these guys, but I just feel like this is going to be a big sticking point for us. And can we stop the run? How well are we going to stop the run? Because whether we change the defense or we don't, the Big Ten is still going to be a run-heavy conference. And yes, when we play Ohio State, when we play Michigan, there are going to be a lot of passing, but we have to be able to do that. I'm a little skeptical of our ability to stop them up front. So I'm going to go C-.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Rio comes in with a C as well. Thank you, Rio. It's tough, as you said, because we don't know exactly how this defense is going to play. But I think we mostly believe it's still going to be a three linemen in front for the most part, at least in base packages. I'm going to go a C and a C. I think just a straight C across the board. It's tough when you look at this unit. Like if I asked you to point to who is most likely to be an all Big Ten performer, I don't know who we're dreaming on in this unit. That's kind of the problem. It feels like a bunch of steady players who I think can stop the run, but I don't really anticipate any of them being disruptive in the backfield type guys, except for maybe, and this is where I think it gets interesting. Darian Varner.
I was just going to say Varner might be the guy, and that's probably because we don't know yet, right? We don't know what he's going to bring. So, yeah, I mean, this is an area that I'm really concerned about, and I mean, I'm concerned about the defense in general to an extent, but this being that main point.
Yep. Curtis Neal could be a disruptive presence. Rio C mentions him. He was a pretty good recruit that probably doesn't get to Madison if he doesn't have that knee injury as a high schooler. Like he had some high level teams back off of him. The other thing I'd say that's interesting is it's possible a guy like TJ Bollers, who we thought might be a defensive lineman, transitions to that spot as well and provides a little bit of a boost. But I just don't see any future stars that you can point to and say, I know that dude's going to be a really, really disruptive player. So I'm right there with you on the grades.
Let's pull up Tim's comment. I think this is an interesting point. I think it's a nice it's something to talk about here. I disagree with Tim. I think that I mean I just feel like anytime you're in a 3-down lineman system, the nose tackle is incredibly important, at least in my opinion. And it's just I just feel like it allows our linebackers to do what they have been doing for years. Every single year, we've seen linebacker after linebacker come into the school, dominate, go to the NFL in many cases. And it's because we had a guy like Benson for the last several years. And when you don't have that up front, I really believe that it doesn't just affect the line, it affects the linebackers. And this is where, and listen, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that the new coaches come in, they change everything. They work with the players that we have and they make a lot of changes. But I'm really worried about the nose tackle position. It's something that, also we haven't addressed it in the transfer portal. So maybe there is a different plan that we don't know about, that we're just guessing this kind of stuff. So what do you think about this? I mean, I don't believe it's overblown, but it's a good comment. It's a good discussion.
Yeah, I was just, as you were going through it, I was saying, let's read the comment first for the people on the podcast.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's no worries. So Tim says nose tackles overblown. Scruggs and Collins will upgrade the defensive line. Mullins is a plus run stuffer who could move to nose tackle. So I think there's a lot to unpack there. Rajiv, I mostly agree with you. The nose tackle thing, I think people sometimes equate modern offenses to you don't need the nose tackle as much. But what I've always said is when you need that nose tackle, you really need them. When you line up against Iowa, you really need them. When you line up against Michigan, you really need them. When you line up against Minnesota, any team that tests the middle of your line, you really need that dude. Now, you don't need him as much as you needed that guy in 1993, but you really need that dude against 3 or 4 teams a year, and it's a big deal. The other thing I would say, he does make a point here. We changed our defensive line, strength and conditioning. Those could certainly make a big deal. And Mullins moving to nose tackle could potentially help. I'm on board with seeing if that idea would work, because I don't see him being a really disruptive defensive end going forward. So I could see that as depth, but I don't see that as an impact move.
I know Justin said this too, Matt Mullins. I don't necessarily agree. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I don't really agree that he's really going to be good there. But
all right, let's go to linebacker. I'll take this one. I gave it a grade. I didn't do inside and outside. I just did one grade, but you can certainly break it up if you want. In the comments, you can certainly break it up if you want. I didn't, just because I don't know how this coaching staff is going to deploy the linebackers. So I felt like just giving it a positional grade is fine. I went B this year and then B+ going forward. I like some of the younger talents here. I really like Janzi coming in. And for example, I like Turner still growing. I like Chaney still growing. I think Peterson and Bowlers have a chance to step up, but I'm worried about the lack of proven outside players. So to me, it's more of a potential. I think it could be a little higher, but there's nobody I point to that immediately replaces Nick Herbig, for example, and quite frankly, the younger guys like Peterson, Witt hasn't been able to get healthy. The younger guys that we pinned a lot of hopes on, they haven't been as consistent or as healthy as we had hoped.
Yeah. I'm going to break them up only because I want to highlight the inside. So I actually am giving the inside an A- right now and an A- going forward. And I'm giving the outside a C right now and a B going forward. I do believe we're going to be okay long-term on that, but I really, really, really like Jong Meta. He is one of my favorite defenders on the team. I feel like he and Turner are a nice inside pairing. I like the depth that we're going to have there. So yeah, I really think that's kind of the strength of that linebacking crew. So overall, I wanted to split them up, but overall, I guess I'm saying B kind of overall, but I really think that inside you're looking at A's, outside you're looking at C.
Yeah, so I think we're about at the same spot when you average your grades out. The thing with Muma that concerns me a little bit, I thought he did play better down the stretch. I don't know if I think he's more of a run stopper than a sideline to sideline guy, but I could be wrong. I like Chaney a lot in the middle, though. I think you have a really good 3-man rotation there for sure. So yeah, I think to your point, the inside linebackers are stronger than the outside linebackers at this point. All right, let's talk defensive backs. I definitely split these up. I'm assuming you did as well. I'm going to kick it over to you. Let's do defensive back grades.
Yeah. Okay. So from a cornerback perspective, I'm looking at a B-, and going forward an A, because I really think that we've got some great young talent coming in. We talked about how much we love Snowden, DeCluna. So I think in the future, the cornerback position, they're strong. Alexander Smith is awesome, but I have a little bit of apprehension about giving a higher grade with Mullman. I thought he had tackling issues last year, had a few other problems. So I don't love it. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with cornerback.
Yeah, I'm going B- right now, just because I worry about who's lining up next to Alexander Smith. We saw that last year, right? Like we saw this defense, the passing defense improved dramatically when Alexander Smith was able to get out there. I think that points to depth, but in the future, I'm going A-. I'm right there with you. I love the talent they brought in. I'm not ready to go A yet because there still wasn't a high 4-star kid coming in, right? I think we could still use a talent infusion there. But DeClune I like. He's a 6-foot corner. Snowden for sure. Jace Arnold is one that we don't talk about because it was a Paul Chris guy. Jace Arnold is a high 3-star that is incredibly fast. I love him as well. And Avion Jones for the future, I think, is a Big Ten player as well. So I love where we're going in the future. Holman as well, I like. But I'm a little worried about the lack of experience this year. And Ricky Bobby 77 says, don't forget about Holman. Yeah, I think Ricardo Holman has shown some really impressive things as well. I like it going forward. Again, I'm more concerned this year.
Yeah.
All right, let's do safety. I'll start on safety. I think I'm going to say A- this year, and I think A- going forward. Honestly, I love the safety group. I think going back to last year, and maybe I'm being too much of a homer here, but going back to last year, I thought the safety group made a remarkable transformation from where we were very concerned in the offseason. And then suddenly you get Hunter Wohler back from injury. Kamoi Latu emerges. And I just think the talent there, Austin Brown has started playing, and now you're bringing in a Braden Moore, which is one of our higher rated recruits. I still really like Travion Blaylock coming back as depth. He would have been a starter. He's probably a depth guy now. I just think there's a lot of young talent there. And Amari Snowden, by the way, we don't know where he's going to go. I think they're going to start in that corner, but he may be a safety as well. So I think either way, I like the future of that group. I think they're really deep this year, and I think they're loaded with young players for the next couple of years at safety.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm actually going A on both. I really, really like the safeties. I mean, Latu is certainly another one of my favorite players, along with Wohler. Agree on Blaylock, and Braden Moore is, to me, of all the defensive backs that we got, and he's the most exciting for me, which is why I just really feel like. And the other reason I'm giving an A for the future is it's also about the potential of further recruits. I mean, seeing what Fickle and his staff are doing right now, we're going to continue to beef up this area because he does like a defensive back heavy defense. So yeah, all about the safety group right now. And I love when I love the safety. So excited.
And by the way, we talked about, we didn't. I think it was Rio C that brought up maybe Scruggs coming in to help the defensive line coaching. Paul Haynes coming in to coach cornerbacks. That was a big time, coaching addition. Former co-defense coordinator at Minnesota. They had really good defensive backs there. This is a coach that was pretty lauded coming in, so I think he's going to help as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Then we're going to get to your comments, get all your grades, and then we're going to go into some too deep on the defensive side and continue getting your conversation, your thoughts in on that. But first, we're going to take a very quick break. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Let me know in the comments who you're taking for the Super Bowl, who you'd put your future on, who you're taking in the NBA Finals, who you'd put your futures on. Again, I've got the Suns, I've got the Niners, and I keep saying it, but this week I may go look and see if I can find some Wisconsin futures on BetOnline. Winning the Big Ten, maybe a futures for the Ohio State game. I'm getting pretty wrapped up in this excitement, even though I promised everybody this year I would not. I was going to take the under. I'm not going to fall in for the hype. And here I am again. I'm ready to take the over. I'm going to go to BetOnline, and we're going to win the title. I'm putting money on it. So BetOnline allows you to do that. Bet with your heart. Don't bet with your head. Have fun with it. Do it responsibly, of course. BetOnline, more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in, as always, making this just one of your first stops. I appreciate y'all more than I can possibly say. So thank you so much for it. When you're done here, go check out Locked On College Basketball today on the Locked On Network. All the biggest college basketball stories in one spot. Let's get Rajiv back on here. Rajiv, my friend, let's
now all of a sudden we're winning the title, huh? We're winning the title now. Look at this.
Listen, I can't help myself. You know this. Let's get some comments here. Let's see. Rio C talking about football needs black jerseys. Rajiv, you and I talked about the basketball jerseys. We both like them. I don't know if you saw one of the comments I had that excoriated the jersey. Said, how in the world did Chris McIntosh let those abominations anywhere near the Kohl Center? You like those, right?
I absolutely love those. And the reason I love them is because they're different. Look, I'm all about tradition in college football. I'm all about it. But my gosh, can we please get something different on the football field? I love that the players do those designed basketball jerseys every year. I've liked almost all the ones they've designed. I think it's a great concept. And are you kidding me? Like, we have plenty of white and red. A little black is great. I love the vertical lines down it. I thought they were fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I want to see more of that on the football field. Let's get some new helmets. Let's get some, I don't want to go full Oregon. I don't want that, but I do want some variety on the football field. It's exciting. And frankly, what are they doing? It's just more money for the athletic department.
And can I point out the obvious too? For people who listen, recruits like it, kids like it,
Yes.
kids get hyped up over it. For a lot of people, and I get this element of it. Like I have elements of traditionalism as well. Like I don't want us to move away from the ball. I like the motion W. I'm drawn
Mhm.
to it, but let's be honest. The alternate jerseys, I'm not the target audience. Like we are not the target audience. Kids like it. Recruits like it. It builds excitement. I'm here for it. Bo
I
Dragon.
will lump myself into the target audience because let me tell you something. If we come out with a black Badger jersey with a cool Bucky on it, I will buy that jersey. I mean, I'm going to buy it. So I count me in. I'm part of that group. I want it. Anyone who disagrees, I'm open to that, but I don't get it.
I love it. Bo Dragon says, when your offense is putting points up, you can gamble and run blitz. I almost want to take this and just change up a little bit, but I think Bo has a really good point here. If our offense, which we all think is going to be pretty darn good this year, if it's putting other teams in a hole, other teams are falling behind 14-3, 21-10, other offenses become more predictable. I think it makes it easier on our defense in a lot of ways.
Totally. I mean, think about what Wisconsin has done to other teams. We've put ourselves in that hole a lot, and that's exactly what we can do to other teams. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And there was another comment up there that talked about how Fickle probably has a plan. I can't remember where it is now. I'm sorry, I lost it. But yeah, I mean, he probably does have a good plan for the defensive line, and which is why they're recruiting the way they are, and maybe not bringing in the people that I necessarily want them to bring in right away. But they've got a plan, and I think it'll work.
Rajiv, let's kick it over to you to start this one. I don't want to field every question at the beginning. Dylan Bear, great secondary will allow the D line to get home more frequently.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, especially when they can tee off like that and run downhill and get there. I agree. And it's what's going to be interesting is to see how much the secondary plays into Lou Fickle's defense. We know that when at Cincinnati he ran a 3-3-5. Not saying he's going to do that here, but he will have a defensive back heavy presence, and we haven't really seen that a lot at Wisconsin. So because we've been very focused on the front, so how that changes a Wisconsin defense that we're used to seeing is going to be interesting. And I'm here for it because I really like the adding more defensive backs. I think it's just where the game is going. But yeah, I think Dylan's right. It will definitely allow them to tee off a little bit and get home.
The only thing I'd add to this, and yeah, Dylan, you're definitely right. The great secondary gives the pass rush more time to work, and it works both ways, right? The great pass rush gives a mediocre secondary less time they have to cover. The only thing I'd say is I don't think we have a great secondary this year. Like I think the cornerbacks are still a little below what a great secondary would be, but I think it's going to be a good secondary, which is still obviously going to help. CS says, is it me or does anyone else not understand how the net rankings work in NCAA? They seem to hate the Badgers. How are they 65 and Ohio State is 30? Maryland, Penn, Northwestern ahead of us. I don't know the exact formula, but I do know winning close games doesn't help you in any of the analytics because it looks like those are toss-up games. Winning by 10, 15, by 20, those help the metrics.
And we have had pretty much all of our wins like that. And we've talked about how they could be a loss either way, right? I mean, one basket kills the other way.
So I know that factors into it, but I would not pretend to be an expert on how the net rankings are formulated. Commandant Klink chimes in, nose tackle is a big need. We can also use another pass rusher. 2 big losses from last year's team. Yeah, I put it up on Twitter. Nick Herbig led the Big Ten in pressure rate last year. That shouldn't surprise anybody. The next best player on our team was Keanu Benton, who I think was 5th among interior defensive linemen in the Big Ten. So you're not replacing those 2 dudes with 2 plug-and-play guys. It's going to have to be more of a group effort, I think, Rajiv.
Isn't it interesting that for the first time in a long time, the defense might be the question that we have on this team? I mean, I don't think it is really much of a question. I think it's still going to be okay, but we have a lot more discussion about where is the defense going to be this year, and our grades are clearly lower going into 23. So, yeah, it's a whole different world for Badger fans right now.
It is so wild. And Bo Dragon says the offense is going to carry the team next year. I think it is, which is
Hopefully.
Insane. Because to Rajiv, your point, we have spent years just saying, could the offense just come along? And when we finally feel like it does, we're like, oh, but the defense isn't going to be like, why can't we just get both married up here? It is interesting. I do think if we're being real, the jump from where the offense has been to where it potentially could be next year is much larger than the downfall from where the defense has been to where it could be next year. So I think in the aggregate, we're getting much better, but the defense is going to take a step back, in my opinion. I just don't think it's going to be a major one.
And if the offense can make up for it, as we've said, then we might not even really notice it.
That's absolutely true. Ryan Robin mentioned CJ Getz coming back gives us really good depth. Rajiv, I talked about Getz on a show. Curious where you were at when you saw him coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We just need the depth. He's not my favorite player. I'm not saying that I'm going to grade him out really high, but I think that we've lost people at that position. We've talked about Herbig a lot, so I think that we need the depth. And I also feel like all these guys are going to get better. You know, we've talked a lot about spring ball and what's going to happen with the strength and conditioning coach and how that's going to improve things. So, I mean, we could have our opinions of players right now where we think they are, how they performed last year, and they could be totally transformed into different types of players next year. So to Ryan's credit, to his point here, depth is really important because if you have that experience, they can still be shaped by the new coaches. And we might see a new star that was just on the team last year and wasn't really, a big player for us, but they could really break out with the new regime that we have here. So yeah, it's always good to have the depth and competition.
Yep, I agree. All right, we're going to take a quick break, come back, and we're just going to keep rolling through your comments. This is kind of the point of these free-flowing Fridays, just to get the community involved. What do you want to talk about? I put the link on the Discord, so y'all on Freeform Friday can just call in and actually jump on the show if you want as well. Or just stay in the chat, however you want to fan. People fan in different ways. So, but that's kind of the point of these shows. Coming up next, we're going to take more of your comments, including Hunter Wohler potentially having a bigger role next year in this kind of 3-3-5 as a hybrid. I think that's an interesting idea. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Built Bar. I've talked about Built Bar, trying to get a little healthier, trying to get a little better version of myself. Definitely want to get a little healthier before I interview with Brady Collins so he doesn't look at me like I'm a slob. Built Bar is one of my ways to do that. It is a protein-packed bar, not a lot of calories, very little sugar, incredible flavors, 100% real chocolate. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. Like I said, I have kind of a cache I have hidden away. My kids will rate it, and they think they're stealing candy bars, but I know they're just getting protein for their bodies, so it's kind of like a little dad win. And I give them the side eye, so they actually think they're getting away with anything, but it's just I've got 40 years of experience up here to outwit them. So it's a way that I get them to eat healthier. And if you go to Walmart, you can get it at Walmart. You get the 4-bar box in the pharmacy section. If you go to Sam's Club, it's a 13-bar box. They're mainstream now. We got in on the ground floor, but go get yourself a Built Bar. You're not going to regret it. Incredible flavors. Churro is my favorite. You're going to thank me later. And again, just want to say thank you to everybody tuning in. Y'all are amazing. Let's just keep this community growing and building and add more voices. That is 100% the goal. Rajiv, not to peel back the curtain too much, but your insight is incredible. People are always talking about how much they enjoy you on the show. And you were just a person found the show and reached out and said, hey, let's do it. And that's the whole point of this.
Yeah, being a part of the community was really fun for me. And then being able to join it like this is like a dream come true. It's been really fun. So there are a lot of really good comments out here, man. I think this segment will be fun. There's a lot of good stuff over here. I would like to address Brian, and I'm not going to say his last name. I don't know if that's Fooch. I don't know. Could be something that
find it here.
It's like near the bottom. How cool would it be if the Badgers football changed unis every week like Oregon? So I very much disagree with this. I don't really think it'd be that cool. I want to see a couple new uniforms, some alternates throughout the year, but I also like some of the traditional, our white pants, our red tops. But yeah, that combo I thought was kind of fun, but there's a lot of really good stuff to get into here.
Well, let's take this one, Ryan Shaw. I think this one's interesting, Ryan. And again, if you have a Ryan as a first name, I'm going to get you on this show more likely than not. I do play name favorites. Ryan says, I have a strange take on the overall picture here. We potentially win more games this first year than next. Mordecai is the ace card. Everson Locke, I like. But this first year, I think, watch out. I actually think this take is brilliant. And I haven't really seen anybody say this. People continue to say, he's going to keep building this. We're going to keep getting more talent. Look at next year's recruiting class. But Mordecai is the proven quarterback. Everyone else on the roster, from a quarterback standpoint, is kind of a question mark. And this is also probably the easiest schedule we're going to have in a while because the West is going away right after next year. So I think Ryan's onto something here. Potentially, if the next wave of quarterbacks don't pan out or they're just not quite ready, plus a harder schedule, this could be a better year than next year, even in the first year with Fickle and Longo.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And you kind of get that new coach bounce a little bit. There's gonna be a lot of activity, a lot of excitement around the program. Yeah, the schedule is what it is. ESPN, Paul Feinbaum actually said that he put us as a Cinderella kind of chance to make the CFP next year as like an outside yeah, exactly. As Rio says, the TC of 2023, the unranked team that gets into the CFP. It could definitely happen. I'm hesitant to really put my, eggs in that basket because I want that to happen, obviously, but you just never know how the chemistry goes with new coaches and a lot of new players, a lot of people in the portal, and a new quarterback that is brand new to all these guys. Yes, we all expect Tanner Mordecai to be great, but we also expected Graham Mertz to be great. Not comparing those two. Tanner Mordecai is a proven winner, but you just never know how people are going to fit in. So I do still think the outlook down the future is more in line, but listen, we could surprise everybody. And Locked On Badgers will have a lot of fun next year if we end up having the kind of season that guy mentioned.
It's going to be a blast. Let's keep going here. A bunch more comments I'm trying to get to. Ryan Robbins says Rajiv is the man. I
Ryan,
100%
you're crazy.
agree with that. Leroy James, this is a good one. So Leroy, one of the best parts about this channel is I think we can get differing opinions on here and we do it respectfully. CJ Getz, because I disagree with this comment, but like I understand where he's coming from. He says CJ Getz is the Dunn, obviously referring to Jack Dunn of the defense. One thinks he's still on the team. Geez. The only difference is, to me, I feel like CJ Getz had 61 tackles last year, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. And the point I made with Getz is he started for 2 people we really respect defensively, like Jim Leonard and Bobby April started CJ Getz. I respect their defensive acumen. The offensive side where Jack Dunn was getting reps, to me, it felt like he shouldn't have been, but I lost some of the respect for that offensive. I don't want to say certainly not intelligence, but the offensive identity, I'll say.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I agree with all those points. And I disagree with this, but I agree with you.
Yep. Alien Space, CJ, it gets is way better than Dunn. I agree with that one. Jack Ferris said, let's see. He said Fickle said in an interview that his biggest surprise so far has been how much of a national name Wisconsin is. He may expand that 350 miles. Speaking to the 350-mile radius he kind of threw out there as the core of our team is going to get here. Rajiv, I'm going to kick this to you if you have a reaction here on this one.
Yeah, I had not seen this. This is interesting. I think, to be honest, I feel like we are a national name, but I think Fickle is the national name, right? He's the reason that I think you're getting a lot of people that are excited about the program that necessarily weren't before. But I've always liked that he made that initial comment about the 350-mile radius because he mentioned that it built the core of your program comes from there. And the way I took that is, yes, we're going to get recruits around the country, but Wisconsin has lost a lot of recruits from inside the state to other big schools in recent years. And that's what I think the message is. We have to stop that. We have to own the state of Wisconsin. And when we have a place like Chicago so close to our backyard, we've got to dominate that market, and we can. And because it's a national brand, we are going to be able to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the entire recruiting footprint expands, but because of Luke Fickle and what he brings and the reputation that he has. When you take Cincinnati to the CFP, everyone's eyes turn when you go to a program in the Big Ten. And I mean, the possibility gives me goosebumps of what this program can really become and how our recruiting can take off. And I mean, who knows, 5 years from now, we could be sitting at the top of going to the CFP and we're that next Clemson that I always talk about, and we're recruiting with Ohio State. I mean, you never know. Probably not going to happen, but we have that ability now, and we can see the light at the end of that tunnel.
Right, we'll be those spoiled blue bloods who get the high 3-star, and we're like, like that we always complain about, like the Ohio State fans. I will say this, because I think Jeff has a good point here too, bringing up the Fickle comment. I said for a long time that Wisconsin's a bigger name than we give ourselves credit for, right? Which you mentioned Fickle as a name, but Fickle doesn't come to Wisconsin if Wisconsin also doesn't have that equity. I think they both work together, and it's one of those really good early partnerships that we've seen the results tangibly already on the recruiting front. So again, we'll say it a billion times, we have to see it play out, but he's won the honeymoon. And it's what I keep saying. Zach Bart's hot take: Bryson Green will be a 1,000-yard receiver this past year. He had most of his stats before Spencer Sanders got hurt. That was the Oklahoma State quarterback. He only had 160 yards roughly after Sanders went down. At a bowl, he could hit 1,000. You and I both love Bryson Green.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of talent, and now you have a guy like Tanner Mordecai throwing to him in a long go offense. That's the most important part. 1,000 yards seems like a little bit of a stretch, only because Zach, I think that there's going to be a lot of weapons on this team, and I think it's going to be spread around a lot in the long go offense. So I don't think anyone's going to get quite that high, but we can definitely see some 700-800 yard guys. But I think there will be like three of them, in DK and my sort of three starters, which are DK, Bell, and Green. So I think all of them could have huge years. I do see the ball being spread around a lot more, which I think we're going to love.
Mm-hmm. Which is also going to allow us to get more receivers, right? Like, I think you see all these receivers committing. It's because we're going to spread the ball around a lot because a lot of people are going to get targets. I agree there. Scott McFarland says we desperately need another Watt brother. Yeah, we could use one.
I mean, gosh, how good are those guys? Jeez.
I agree.
I love seeing our guys in the NFL, especially the Watt brothers. I mean, like how highly regarded they are and how highly regarded TJ still is, and even Derek and how highly regarded he is, and not quite to the same level. But yeah, those guys are amazing.
Just incredible. I agree. Tim says corner experience is the biggest issue. After Smith, it's Hallman, it's Jones. We may be playing true freshmen. You and I talked true freshmen are going to play. We're just not sure who exactly. Agreed. I mean, I think there's going to be points this season where we're going to see a blown coverage or a young mistake from a corner, and it's going to hurt this defense. It's going to hurt the team. I think it's going to happen.
I saw this comment earlier. I liked it. I think it's a really good point. And we've talked about kind of like the tackling issues with these guys as well. That was one of my biggest critiques after last year. And Hallman was one of the culprits, but man, we are going to need to really step this up, which is why I really feel like I know we kind of disagree on this. I do feel like Snowden is going to play corner, and I think he's going to play this year. And I think it's going to be, we hopefully he kind of steps up and takes that other side. Maybe we'll see, but if the youth can come in and play well, I think we could have a decent year at corner, but definitely an area that we need to be worried about.
Well, here's the thing with Snowden, man. Again, I kind of see him as more of a safety, but I'm rooting for him to be a corner, right? Because if he is a corner and you have a legitimate and he can play that position at 6'3", then you have an NFL dude at that spot for the next 3 years. So
that's what I'm hoping for.
and we had John Garcia Jr. on the Sports Illustrated recruiting director. He called him, quote, the freakiest of the freaks, end quote. He's definitely somebody that wherever he plays, he's a freak show athletically. So very excited about that. Let's keep going here. Commandant Klink brings up, why does it seem that teams that have great offenses score a lot of points also give up a lot of points on defense? Bad on defense, a lot of 56-50 type scores. Is it a factor of scoring too quickly on offense that keeps your defense maybe worn out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that certainly makes sense. I would like to think that we're going to be one of these offenses that has that good defense. Someone like an Ohio State, for example, that has kind of both sides of that ball. But yeah, I mean, it definitely is a good point, and it does seem like you're always getting one and not the other, right? It's always like either we got a great defense and it's a low scoring game, or we have a great offense, it's a high scoring game. The idea is to have both. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I certainly think it plays a factor.
Yeah, I would go to efficiency, right? Like teams are going to score more against us next year because we're going to have more possessions. There's going to be more football plays in a game next year with Wisconsin than there used to be. So the defense is going to inherently give up more points, but it's the efficiency, I think, in which you do it, which Wisconsin can still be pretty good, right? Obviously, Wisconsin's previous defenses have benefited from the fact that typically Wisconsin controls the clock. That is a benefit to the defense. However, you can still have a efficient defense in terms of stopping the other team. They're just going to do it in more possessions, right? So they're going to give up more points. But as long as that efficiency remains, I think this team is going to be really dangerous, and that'll be the key. If they can still get stops at the same type of rate, more possessions are going to equal more points. But if you're still getting those stops, I think Wisconsin has a chance here because I like the defensive staff, as you mentioned. I like some of the players they brought in, but it is going to be a different type of challenge, 100%. Let's see. Interesting one from Brian Valterra. I work on Fort Carson in Colorado. People are talking about what's going on in Wisconsin. And we've seen that from a national perspective. We've seen YouTube videos pop up with national college voices say, what is happening in Madison right now? John Garcia Jr. said what they're doing with this transfer portal and the amount of quarterbacks is, his words again, unprecedented. Rajiv, what's it like being the talk of college football? Maybe outside of John
mean, it's like I woke up and it was all a dream. I feel like this is just this is what I've wanted for so long. I mean, this is I've wanted to be a program that people talked about, that people talked about with entering into the CFP and getting big name recruits and not always fighting for second place in the conference, you know. And I don't necessarily think we're doing that, but for the last few years we were. And yeah, it's great. It's so fun to be part of that. And frankly, that's because let's give credit where it's due here. And it's Chris McIntosh that did this.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about a guy that, you know, brought in Luke Fickle, wasn't afraid to step out of the Wisconsin tradition, step out of the Barry Alvarez shadow and say, all right, we're going to make moves here to take this program to the next level. I mean, I don't think we talk about Chris McIntosh enough because he is the reason this all happened, and he deserves a lot of credit. So the fact that we're being talked about all over the country, the fact that we're lining ourselves up for years of success with Fickle, I still can't believe it, and I'm so proud of it.
That's well said right there. Alien Space jumps in with Luke Fickle always said he liked Wisconsin, going back to the Luke Fickle to Wisconsin discussion. I certainly think that we didn't make enough out of that originally. In the way Wisconsin plays football is a lot of what Luke Fickle enjoys about football, you know, defensive, Midwestern culture. It's a better fit than I think anybody realized until it happened. Maybe is the best way to put it.
Yeah, and if I could just add something to that real fast, it's almost like it's a Big Ten program that has the ceiling of the national title. Like we were close, so you can see that it just needed that extra bit of recruiting, coaching, strength and conditioning, and so I think, you know, he liked the program because it matches his style, but also it's like this is a program that can actually go there. There are programs in the Big Ten where you're not going to turn that program into a national championship contender. But Wisconsin was one of those. If you looked at the top, okay, Ohio State, Michigan, then the next rung down, you got your Penn State, you got Wisconsin, you got Michigan State, you got these programs that are like with the right coaching, with the right, all these elements, this can go to the next level. And I felt like he saw that potential in our program because let's face it, Fickle was recruited to go elsewhere too. I mean, there are a lot of people, pretty much every program in the country, short of like a handful, would have taken Luke Fickle. So he saw the ability to build this program to be the next big program. And I am so happy that he chose us.
I 100% agree. That the hidden sauce with Wisconsin, man, that people don't talk about quite enough, in my opinion, is how many people live in the state of Wisconsin. It's like 5 million, 6 million. If somebody in the chat knows, there's one program. Iowa shares their program with Iowa State. Right? There's in-state talent. Plus, there's a really good Division II school there. There's nothing else in Wisconsin. We have this gigantic pool. People spend so much time saying Wisconsin doesn't produce enough talent without realizing it's different if you get almost 100% of that talent when you're recruiting well, right? Nebraska, there's few other schools that have this big of a state completely to themselves. It's such a unique advantage that I don't think people talk about quite enough. Obviously, Ohio produces a lot more talent, but there's 7 Division I schools in Ohio. Yeah. Michigan, there's how many are in Michigan with all the directional schools? Like, I just think it's a weird advantage that people don't talk about maybe enough, but maybe that's just me. Maybe people do talk about it. Chad Coyer says Coach Fickle being a defensive coach should bolster the kids on that side of the ball. It's his focus. He's also a defensive line guy originally. That's what he played. So I think that's a very good comment as well. I did want to bring up Jamel Howard, and here's a comment with him. Aside from landing a commit from high school prospects, Jamel Howard, what else would we like to see Fickle and the staff do this offseason? I first want to hit you with the question regime and then let you respond to Zach here. Assuming we get Jamel Howard, I'm not saying we are. I think we do end up with him. How does that change your defensive line grade that you had?
Well, it changes the future to like, an A- probably because I think he's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about Jamel Howard for months on this show, and he's the guy that we really need to me, he's that last remaining piece of the pie, of the recruiting pie. And then as far as what else I'd like to see from Fickle in this offseason, I've been saying that I want him to focus more on the defense, and maybe he already has a plan and that's okay, but I just want the depth at defense. I mean, I think I've said we need outside linebackers. I want more of that. I think Petrowski was a great get for us, but I want more. And of course, defensive line. I just feel like we've got so much depth at quarterback, so much depth at wide receiver. We've got fairly good depth on the line, on the offensive line, but defensive line and the defense, we've got good secondary depth too. But up front defensively has got to be a focus. And I'm hoping he has a plan, and maybe we don't need that. But if I'm saying it, that's where I see the need.
Yeah, I would agree. Chad Coyer, Ryan, first, thank you for reading my first ever comment on the podcast last night. Man, you're welcome. Chad, thank you for joining us. It's humbling to have anybody join, quite frankly. So thank you, Chad. Do you think Fickle will play cat and mouse with the Big Ten, not showing much of the offense until conference season? I would say no, only because I think Washington State in week 2 on the road is a dangerous game. If there were 3 like Ball States, Western, like an Eastern Michigan, a Ball State, and an NIU, then yeah, I could see that. But we could lose to Washington State in week 2, and we cannot afford to lose to Washington State in week 2 with all the momentum going into this year.
Yeah, I agree. New coach, you got to get off to a good start. We're playing Buffalo to start. Not a difficult team, but they're in a conference that has always tended to find ways to upset Big Ten teams. But we just need to get things started on the right foot. And Longo's going to want to show off some of his, and also just getting players the experience and playing time and running those plays and seeing what works. So I do think we're going to go hard, and I feel like in future seasons we might see a little more of the cat and mouse game.
Jeffrey K says might be the most exciting season as a season ticket holder since Russell transferred when I was a senior in high school. I think you can take that might out of there.
Yep.
Like this is right. Although, yeah, Rasheed, like, how excited were you? And let me know in the comments as well. How excited were you for the Hornibrook team coming back after the Orange Bowl? The 5 offensive linemen were on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that team opened up the season, I think, ranked 4th in the country.
Yep.
Like.
Yeah, I mean, I've been excited about a lot of teams in the past, but this does take the cake for me, and I think the might word definitely goes away here. I mean, and it's probably just because for the first time since I've been a fan, which started in '99, we have a coach that is unlike Barry Alvarez entirely. I mean, it's completely different, and that breeds that excitement for me. So, yeah, and everything we're doing in the transfer portal and the recruiting, how can you not be excited? So, yeah, this is definitely. I mean, I cannot wait until I still feel like we need somewhere on this screen. We got to have a countdown clock here.
Yeah, I love it.
I think that this is definitely the most exciting. I hope that, Locked On Badgers does a road trip up there and we get to all see a game together. And I mean, and all these guys that are on let's get the community together. Let's go,
let's
party.
Get Zach, Rio, Tim,
yeah,
Jeffrey K, Bo Dragon. Let's get Leroy in it, Commandant Clink, Uncultured Barbarian, all the other ones that we're getting, which is a lot. I would love it. Let's do it. I do think it's interesting too. Sometimes different is just exciting, right? Like I was excited for the Hornibrook team and that offensive line that was going to road grade everybody, but this is just different, and different is also in its own way exciting. That doesn't mean different is better, but I think it is exciting in its own way. Tim brings up a point. We talked about the in-state talent. He said, I've done analysis. Wisconsin is the only program that has no in-state scholarship program competition. Maybe at the Power 5 level, I would love to see that as well. But it makes sense. It feels correct to me.
It is. It is definitely correct. Yeah, and that is a huge advantage that we have, which is why we can't lose in-state recruits. We can't. We have to be that school that everybody wants to come to. And we have got very passionate fans in this state and very passionate football fans. Obviously the Packers do a lot for that. But even though I'm not a Packer fan, nor is Ryan, but I think that, we absolutely need to take advantage of the fact that we're that only state like that. And I think Luke Fickle will definitely be doing that.
I agree. I think he's already doing that. You're seeing billboards go up. He's making the rounds to high schools. And there's a comment up here that, again, really quick, peel back the curtain. We're going to try to do Friday shows like this where we just have comments and we just roll through what y'all want to talk about. I think it's a great way to build community because there's never going to be a moment when anybody's voice, certainly myself included, is bigger than anyone else's on Locked On Badgers. So I encourage we talk about whatever we want to talk about on Friday and put your voices out there. And I encourage all of y'all, if you want to, call in on the show, jump in on the live conversation, So that's what we want to do here. I can't say that enough, how much I appreciate just the conversation from all of y'all. There was a comment up here, and I've already lost it. I apologize for that. Rasheed, this is why I'm trying to make you a moderator, by the way, so you can also throw comments in there.
It's a good a lot of good comments always means that good comments are going to get lost, so that's okay.
Tons of them. Jim Sainsbury says, I hear a lot of people say we should only go after 3- and 5-star players. Jamel Howard is a 3-star. Just saying there's way more to a player than star rating. I agree.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and we've always been a developmental program, and I feel like it's about finding not just the stars, it's about finding the guy that fits your system, fits your program, and how that there's so many immeasurables that go along with a player, and that's why having a big recruiting department that can get out there and see these players, and it makes a big difference.
Logan Couch says we're going to destroy every team that stands in our way, and it'll be glorious to watch. Oh, and good luck to Dean Ingram wherever he lands. I just love that last comment. And I think it's truthful. Like, good luck to Dean Ingram, by the way. Like, I hope he crushes it. But by the way, we're going to destroy every team that stands in our way, Rasheed, and it's going to be glorious.
And Logan, we are going, and one of them will be PJ Fleck, who is going to just be cringing, waiting for that last game of the season. And man, Luke Fickle's going to bury that guy. I can't wait. Cannot wait.
I can't wait. Ryan 23791. Again, Ryan's get front of the line privileges on this show. Excited for Braylon Allen more than anyone for this upcoming year. Something tells me he's going to really bust loose, and that's followed up with Bo Dragon. Allen is going to run over DBs all season. Rajiv, true or false?
True. He's going to run all over everyone. False that I think he's the most exciting player, because I think we got a lot of players that are up there. But yeah. I mean, we've mentioned before on the show that, he's not going to be running into 8 or 9 men boxes. He's going to have a system that he's never seen before. And no defense in the Big Ten has faced Braylon Allen in that system. So when you can't commit, all these guys into the box, you're going to have to spread it out, because Longo, is going to throw it all over the map. Braylon Allen is going to get downhill quickly. And when he gets downhill quickly and when he starts, he's going to look like Ron Dane did in 1999 and just start bowling people over. So I can't wait to see it. And then you're going to have that mix with Malusi and then whoever else comes off, whether it's Julius Davis or Aker. And yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see the running backs have a fantastic year. And we love that. We love seeing running backs have great years here. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't be successful.
I'll just point out too, Braylon Allen wasn't bad last year. I think our expectations, certainly I'll speak to myself. I don't want to speak for others. My expectations for Braylon were better than what we got last year, but he averaged 5.4 and had 1,200 yards last year. Like, he was good last year. The year before, though, Braylon was at almost 7 a clip, right? And I think last year, everything fell apart. The offense, I've said it so many times, but the offensive ecosystem was completely broken. He was dinged up. I think you're going to get a healthy, angry, motivated Braylon Allen that's going to be running against 6-man boxes, and it is going to be Armageddon for the safeties that are trying to tackle him. I think I agree with both these comments. I think he's going to have an incredible year.
Yeah,
he has to stay healthy, which that's the one knock. He hasn't proven he can do that, but I think he's going to have an incredible.
Well, you might be able to stay more healthy when you're not getting hit after 1 yard of I mean, he's going to have more space, and hopefully that can prevent some health issues.
I agree. Rajiv, let me know if there's any other comments. There's a bunch of them I didn't get to, which I apologize for.
I was near the bottom here, and maybe I'm not at the bottom, but I think I like this comment from Scott McFarland, who says he can't wait for redemption in Illinois next year as well. For sure. Yeah. We really need to make sure we did a show a while ago, and that, to me, that was like the turning point of our season. Was early in that game they went up by like 3 scores. That, talk about a soul crushing defeat. I mean, Minnesota is always going to be a soul crushing defeat, but that was just killer. That was where we knew it was over, and we need to get that mojo back, because Illinois is a team we should be dominating.
Let me end on this question. I'm really curious where you're at, and in the comments, let me know as well. What was the most painful loss for you last year? Because for me, it wasn't Illinois. But you can. The sad part is you can make an argument for like 3 different games. By the way,
truthfully, it was Illinois for me. And I initially I would say Minnesota, because Minnesota is just but like I said, I mean, Illinois, I felt like, that we got destroyed by Illinois, and we didn't just get beat. We got beat all over the place. And that's when I think it just hit me that Wisconsin's not Wisconsin right now. That's the program is a shell of its former self, and everything that had been built for all those years with Alvarez and Bielema and Anderson and everything, and even with Christ, I felt like it all just kind of came crashing down. And I was like, man, this is a really low point for our program. So yeah, I think that one was killer for me, just because I felt like everything had totally fallen right then.
And it was Bielema that did it, like coming, like that never helps. Comments here. We got Adam says Washington State. Rio says Illinois. C. Sleet says Minnesota. Blood runs deep.
Yeah.
Ryan, West Washington State. Logan, Washington State. Jeff Ferris, Ohio State. I'm sorry, I'm not reading the entirety of the comments. Aaron says Minnesota, just because we got a lot of them in order here. Kyle Bauman, Michigan State was tough. That was a tough loss.
That was tough because it was very winnable, and it's something that we should have done. I think the Ohio State one is a good point because we got. I mean, that to me, Ohio State, even when we lose, even when we lost 59-0 in the title game several years ago, that was killer. But I almost expect that out of Ohio State. It's because Illinois, I didn't expect it.
Rio says Washington State because they made me realize who we were. That's really well said, Rio. TJ, Minnesota. Ryan says, I would say Illinois. I was there. The fans booed them. It was weird and it was low. Washington State for Ricky. Bucky for Minnesota. Jim was Illinois. Yeah. The sad part of this, by the way, Logan says it was sad to see Nakia Watson beat us.
I mean, jeez.
Oh, I would say this. By the way, the fact that there's like a really good argument to be made for like 4 games is really sad. It was Ohio State for me, more so than Minnesota, because it was just we looked like a JV team.
Yeah,
and it was so disheartening to see even in our best parts of our program, the defense get swept aside like Manila huts before a tsunami. I mean, it was just. We had no business being on that field. And then it was in that game, because this was before the Paul Chris stuff happened, right? Mm-hmm. And we were both still of the belief that Paul Chris, there's no way he's getting fired, no matter what this year. Next year, maybe a hot seat. And we saw him do things in that game where he declined the punting penalty to give Minnesota or Ohio State the ball like the 37, where he didn't go for it down 21 points at like midfield, 4th and 1 with Braylon Allen. And you saw these things in the game and you just said to yourself, or I said to myself, he's given up on the program. Like he has waved the white flag and we're stuck with this for probably 2 years. So to me, that was the low point of many low points.
Yeah, that was many low points. There were so many low points that you could really pinpoint anything. But yeah, I mean, it was, I think, and hopefully we look back at this season and we look at last season as the low point that we're the lowest of the low. I don't ever want there to be a lower point than last year. We still went to a bowl game. So, I mean, I want that to be the bottom. And I think it is the bottom. And there's no reason we should see a bottom. You know, the floor should always be higher with Fickle. And, you know, so I think that we can always look back and just be like, that whole season is should be just kind of blacked out of our memory.
Yeah. And Scott McFarland, we'll finish here. The difference in speed in that game was just unbelievable. Yeah. We didn't deserve to be on the field. All right. I think that's the show today, Rajiv. Again, we didn't get to every comment, but I feel like in a show like this, we're able to get to a lot more of them, which I like doing because I really do intend to keep the community involved and your voices on this show. A couple really quick things. If you want to get more involved in the show, just DM me either on Discord or on Twitter. I do try to respond to everything. If you want to jump on a show at some point, let me know. I mean, that's obviously how Rajiv started, and now he's a popular guy that comes on the show. He's certainly more popular than I am. So if you want to do that and get your voice out there, please do it. Like the whole point of this is to lift up community and to lift up different voices.
I would say I very much encourage that because like, yeah, if I would have done it and I wouldn't have been on here, but it's also really fun for us too, because, you know, like obviously Ryan and I, we talked about this a lot off the show, but the best part is the comments, like just being able to interact with everyone. So yeah, definitely like join the show, call in, chat with us. And I mean, obviously we're all doing this on a Friday night because we love talking Wisconsin. So like, you know, let's just join in and let's have some fun.
Yep. And with that, thank you so much. Or don't join in, stay in the chat too.
Or that too. Yeah.
Yeah. However you want to do it. But just know that this is not ever going to be a show that's going to gatekeep anybody or try to keep anybody's opinions down. So if you want the platform, reach out to me. We'll make it work. With that said, I do appreciate everybody tuning in, watching the show. Bo Dragon says no thank you on that. Also totally cool.
But Bo Dragon's always going to be the comment guy. His comments are always interesting. Some of them are a little out there, but you know, we love it.
Love it. All right, y'all. Have an excellent, amazing weekend. Really do appreciate y'all. Rajiv, thank you as always for jumping in. And we'll keep going. We have, I'm not even going to tease it again. There is a big interview coming up that I keep trying to get nailed down, but we're going to get that as well. Thank you, On Wisconsin, and let's go.